Buckle up, everyone, and welcome to Carpool Rugby League, a show where two rugby league tragics talk
Hello.
everything rugby league on your way to and from work. I'm Shano.
Bonjour. I'm the Chameleon. I'm coming to you live from Malta. I hope you're all having a wonderful time back home in Australia, and to all our international listeners, I should say. It's great to be talking to you, and it's great to be talking to you, Shano. How are you?
Always welcome aboard another show, Griffo. Absolutely, as we were saying before, we hit record. Beautiful to hear your voice overseas at the moment, in your ancestral home of Malta. Um, great rugby league, country. You wear the Maltese cross with pride. I've seen you with the jersey on many times.
The Knights, yeah, the
Yeah,
Malta Knights.
yeah. So, very, very good indeed. We've been off air for a couple of weeks, just with people. Griffo being overseas, Graham again. He's on housekeeping duties, and had a couple of things on. I just want to say, I suppose we start with a bit of a somber note. The passing of Terry Hill. It's you know, he was very much well known for his stint at Manly, but basically, when you think about his work, when you think about the teams he's played for, work on the Footy Show, condolences to those of his family. Whenever anyone in rugby league passes, it's not good, and when you do it at the age he was at, it's not that anyone dying at any age is great, but yeah, it's condolences to his family and friends and people who knew him. He. I remember him as a South junior, funnily enough, back in the day, but he also was known for the signing at South and not coming over, but that's another story.
It's a big loss. Very very sad news. I read that last week. Um, he's younger than me. Um, can't sort of believe that these. I mean, it happens. I know it happens, but he was a larger than life figure. Um, I guess even those who didn't really know too much about his playing saw him on the Footy Show, especially at the Depto Dogs,
Yep.
where he
Go Nads.
played with Gonads, of course, and a lot of Maltese people he interviewed at the Depto Dogs. I forget the name of the gentleman. He didn't have too many teeth.
Nah.
But he was sort of a regular, a Malteser. Terry Hill, he brought a lot of joy to a lot of people. Great player for New South Wales, for Australia. Best known as, I guess, as a Sea Eagle, but he played with probably 5 or 6 clubs. As you said, a South Junior. He was known, of course, when the draft. He challenged it and went to the West Magpies. He was a foundation player for the West Tigers. I think he might have had a stint at the Roosters. And a sad loss. So condolences to his friends and to his family.
Yes. Sorry, Griff, you go.
Oh no, that's all. We got some games to talk about.
We've got some games to talk about. We'll go through. I know you've got stuff to do today, so we'll quickly just run through the recap. Who won last week? Titans beat the Warriors. Roosters smashed the Dragons. The Storm smashed the Bunnies. Seagulls beat the Eels. Broncos beat the Tigers. I've got to say 34-10, that scoreline doesn't quite reflect what went on there. But Broncos still too good. Panthers too good for the Cowboys. 26-20 again. I think Panthers were probably a bit better than the scoreline dictates. 18-14 the Knights in what was a strange game, and the Sharks absolutely belted the Raiders 40-0, and looked absolutely horrible. The Raiders, they were disgusting. So we've got number one on top of the ladder. We've got the Sharks, Storm on 14 points, Panthers on 12, Seagulls on 11, Broncos on 10, Dolphins on 10, Roosters 8, Dogs. You had a bye and jumped 4 spots. Round out the 8. Who would have thought? Cowboys are in at 9th. They're on 8 points too. Raiders and Dragons are on 8. Warriors are on 7. That loss against the Titans, that hurts. If they had won, they would have been in touch with not in the 8, but in the 4. Top touch with the 4. Yeah. Knights on 6. Eels on 6. Tigers on 6. Titans on 4. And South Sydney stone cold, motherless on 4 with the worst defence in the league. Who would have thought that? Griffo, you probably haven't been, you've just probably woken up to the news. South Sydney met this morning in a they didn't call it an emergency meeting. It's an emergency meeting. They met at 8 o'clock our time. At about midday, they came out with no decision on Jason Demetriou's future. Basically said we're going to meet again at 5 o'clock. So they're in now discussing Jason Demetriou's future, which tells me that not only is the situation there at South Sydney a shambles, but I think their board has actually become a bit of a shambles too. If you're spending 4 hours in a board meeting and you can't decide whether he stays or goes, and you've got to meet again at 5 o'clock, there's some significant problems there. Russell Crowe was represented by 2 people, and
he's got that big, has he?
What's that? Apparently.
I didn't realise he put on that
apparently
much weight.
So.
Needs 2 people.
You've got other members. As a fan, I'm telling you now, it's a dead set shambles, and if anything, it's a shambles. And we'll go through team list now, Griff. I'm going to talk about the first game, which is on Thursday night. And if I thought I was in a world of pain now, I think after 80 minutes on Thursday, at about 10 o'clock on Thursday, I might be in a load of more pain. South Sydney play the Panthers on Thursday night. They play at Accor Stadium. Mate, it could be at Redfern, the Moon, anywhere. They're in trouble. To go through the team list, because there's some significant ins for Penrith. I think the significant ins for Penrith are Taruva, definitely. Moses Leota comes back into the side. Ins for South Sydney. Isaac Thompson comes in for the most idiotic attempt at a tackle ever. Tane Milne, who got 2 weeks, and
how did he only get 2 weeks?
Buy a lottery ticket, mate. You should have gotten way more than that. How the hell you only got 2 weeks is beyond me. I thought he would have got 5 and 6. When someone gets tipped on their head or someone gets hit in the head, we call it careless and reckless. That was careless and reckless. So, look, just to go through the teams quickly, for South Sydney, other than the fact that Isaac Thompson's in there, very strange. Ion Kolomatangi, he's a bookend again. Cheekham and Host are in the second row. Memezelos, Havili, Burgess and Arrow. Tallis Duncan's on the reserves for reasons best known to the guy that might only have a job for another 10 minutes. And Sean Kepi is also... Sean Kepi's been a bit poor, but... I don't know why you'd have them. I'm looking at Penrith. Like I said, Taruva on the wing is a key in for them. Leota as a bookend, another massive key in for them. Tyrone Peachy's on the reserves. Not too sure what will happen there.
He's there every week. James.
Yeah, I know. He's in and out. He's like a yo-yo. Liam Henry out for Penrith. Looking at this game, Griff, they're our clubs. My take on this is that watching Penrith play last week, and it it was good. Ash actually got up to the game. My brother's a Penrith fan.
Oh,
He
nice,
got he
nice.
got he got up to
How far
Townsville.
is it
Took
for
the
him?
kids up there. Had some great photos. Just great photos with the team who stuck around to sign autographs.
Oh, that's
Um,
brilliant. Happy to hear that.
Penrith
How
Penrith
long is
were
the trip from
what's that?
for Ash? How long is the trip to
I'm
get
not
to
too sure
Townsville?
from
Yeah.
Mackay. I think I want to say 4 hours from Mackay. They would have stayed the night, like they stayed up there. Um,
Okay, yeah.
Penrith last week against the Cowboys. There was a set of six just for half time where it was like Penrith had no ball. The Cowboys looked like they were mounting something, and then bam, Penrith just hit them. When you look at the scoreline, Penrith took the foot off the gas at the end of the game a little bit last week, but controlled the game perfectly. Like I was at the point where I wanted to see the Cowboys get a try because you just knew off the kickoff Penrith would have hit. Like it just would have been like Penrith never losing that game, and there was no part of that game which made me think Penrith were going to lose. South Sydney, on the other hand, they were a basket case. They were dead set abysmal at times in defence. Their forwards have forgotten how to tackle. Cameron Murray is about the only guy who's happy to do a quick play the ball at the moment. To be fair to their backs, Jack Whiten played a fantastic game. Like, he actually ripped in every time he got the ball. He was just trying everything. Jai Gray, again, was trying to do some things. I've got to say, in a losing side, I thought it was probably one of the better games for Walker. A guy who left training today still with a job, and some might find that amazing. Your job's on the line, yet you got Whiten still in the centres this week. And you've named Host and Cheekham as your second rowers, with Burgess and Arrow on the bench, Havili and Mamazelos. So effectively, under South Sydney's guys, they're running with more or less three hookers. I think I would have thrown everything but the kitchen sink at this selection and made the board at 5 o'clock, because when he made this selection, he knew the board were coming back at 5. His job was safe. When Teamless Tuesday come out, he still had a job. I would have made the board either say this is I don't know. Look, Penrith are going to win this by a freaking truckload. I'll be watching the game, but I can't see Penrith losing this in any way, shape, or form unless there is some significant gastroenteritis outbreak at Panthers training, which causes them to not play. The way South Sydney have been the last week, and the way Penrith have been, tells me that Griffo, your petty Panthers, they'll win this, and they'll not only win it, they'll win it well.
Okay, so first, I just got a couple of things I want to say about the Rabbitohs. Firstly, just going back to Tane Milne. The suspension was a joke because he's got a history of doing stupid things.
I said 6 weeks, Griff. I thought it was 6 weeks.
It should have been. It was deliberate. It was the last play of the game. There was no need to do what he did. As I said, he's got a history of it. But if you're the South Sydney administration, you just wouldn't pick him anymore, because he is a liability. He's not even. I mean, he's an okay player, not a great player.
Can I? You wouldn't have seen this. Jason Demetriou called it dumb. When your coach calls actions on your action on dumb, you need a serious look at yourself. Your coach is meant to be a number one fan, and he's calling you dumb. Like, wake up to yourself.
Yeah.
Clown.
Well, he is. But suspension aside, just don't pick him. Whoever is going to be the coach for the future. Secondly, just before we came on, I was just on a walk listening to one of our previous podcasts. You were talking about the Rabbitohs. It was maybe from 4 or 5 weeks ago. Before the ball was kicked for the year, you were concerned, and you had concerns after week one about the halfback. You made predictions about when the halfback would go, when the coach would go, and so on. And it's seeming that a lot of those predictions are coming to fruition now. So you know your team better than most.
Yeah.
I can't believe that this squad of players is number 17 in the ladder. Given that I thought they could win the comp this year with the injection of Jack Whiten, who's been solid for them, but it's not his fault by any stretch. But the disintegration of what is a very powerful squad of players to be in 17th place. Mathematically, of course, they can make the 8, but I don't think even any of the players would believe now that they can make the 8. It's possible, but I can't see it happening. It doesn't matter. They could bring Wayne Bennett in to coach them.
Can I just add to you that, Griffo? What I'm finding with South at the moment, and I don't want to labour the point on South, is a lot of uncharacteristically South, like in the last sort of few months, they got rid of their number one son in Sam Burgess, who, in my mind, he's the Clive Churchill winner of a grand final I thought I'd never be a part of.
Yeah.
We then saw Morris. We then saw Morris binned. So you binned your number one son and a guy who's actually been doing some very good things. You then hear what happened to Josh Mansell, who kept himself quiet until he, and then when asked, he said, well, if you're going to ask, I'll bring it up. We've now got a board who can't make a decision. And in the past 24 hours, Lachlan Ilias has basically been told to go look for another club. He's free to go look for another club. And who basically said, I've been left blindsided. I was told that I'd have a future here, and now I don't. Losing's one thing. I'm happy to lose. I went for South in the 90s. No, the year Russell Crowe took us over, we went for...
You're rock solid all those years.
Rock solid on the bottom. The year that Russell Crowe took us over... we won 3 games all year, and one of those was against the week he took us over was against a Brisbane team who had something like 11 players out on Origin, and we won on a wet track. Losing doesn't bother me. What bothers me is when you conduct your business in an abhorrent and just hopeless manner, where as a club who's got money, who's got influence, just looks so dumb and foolish and treats people like garbage. I hate that. And if there's any part of me right now that really feels ashamed, it's the way certain people are being treated at the club. Now, if that's Demetrio, bin him now. You should have binned him ages ago. If that's the board, I would love for members to get up, express their anger at what the board's doing, call for them, call for their heads. This is what, in our new, in other news, Shane Richardson's been signed to a 4-year deal. On the back of the West Tigers fans going, we've had enough. I'm happy to lose if you lose with grace. I don't see a graceful club at the moment. I see a club that just is seething with people who've made promises they couldn't keep, who have done things in the background which are not. I'm not going to say un-Australian. That's not right, but it's just not right. And this is where South Sydney are at. And my way of thinking is, if Demetrio's been the the, the person who's done that, well, fine, get rid of him.
It can't just have been him, though, Shane.
No, I think Demetrio is the first domino to fall, and in my opinion, the board should follow. And
I think
and
it goes
I think
back to last year.
Yeah,
As you said, and I don't know what all went on, but it seemed as though Sam Burgess was calling a spade a shovel, and he was calling it as it was, and that some players were obviously gaining a more favourable rails run and basically doing what they want.
Yep.
And it ended up the board made the decision. Okay, well we're back in the coach, and
They backed the wrong horse.
Now, I always thought that Burgess would take over from Demetrio, and obviously he was a threat to Demetrio because the guy is a legend at the club, and a legend full stop, not just at South Sydney. Demetrio doesn't have that status. A good coach, but he doesn't have the resume of Burgess, and the esteem that Burgess is held by supporters like yourself, who will always look to him as the guy. He wasn't the only guy that won them the comp, but he was the man. And the heroics of that grand final will never be forgotten by any Rabbitoh supporter. And here he was out the door. Hard to understand, but the shovel that he came up with, it's turned over a whole heap of shit, because we're seeing they're on the bottom of the ladder.
Yeah.
And he called it, and there they are. Unbelievable that with this squad they could be there. But anyway, I think we've covered it.
How are Penrith winning this?
Look,
we've probably just discussed why.
Everyone just expects that the Rabbitohs will lose this game. So you're not going to be disappointed because you've got that expectation. They could win. That's the reality. I don't think it will happen, but I do tip Penrith, but I don't think we're going to see any sort of big score, because this year the Panthers, while they're in a really good spot, I think third on the ladder at the moment, they're not winning big. They've had in probably 3 or 4 of the wins where they had a big margin. Sorry, just a knock at the door. I'll be back.
You're right. I'll like you were saying, Griffo. That they probably haven't had the wins in the volume or in the way in which that's what I was just taking over and just saying
that was the cleaners.
I think what you're trying to say is, whilst they haven't scored the points, looking at Penrith, they are building. They're
Yeah, but it's not characteristic of the teams that won 3 comps in a row. They would never let the opposition come back at them like they have. But they're still winning, and they're still building. So I'm every game, I take the 2 points and be happy with that. I don't see them winning by a big margin. I do think they will win, but I don't think they win big. In terms of we've talked about the Rabbitohs and their administration. I just want to talk. A few things have happened over the past few weeks for the Panthers. The big one is James Fisher-Harris.
Yes.
Who leave the club at the end of the year
to New Zealand.
Compassionate grounds. Kept under wraps. Nobody knew about it. Normally these things play out for months. So administratively, I think Penrith, they don't get too much wrong these days.
Can
That
I
wasn't
say it was
always
a
the case, but
really classy from Penrith and the Warriors. The Warriors could have just gone out there with all guns blazing. Look who we've got, and they really left it to Penrith and Fisher Harris's camp to do what they needed to do. I thought it was a very classy thing all around.
yeah, it was, and obviously there's a close relationship between Ivan Cleary and the Warriors club, and
Well,
of course
Jet, look at
Anthony
Jet.
Webster.
Jet's going over
Yeah,
there.
yeah. So Webster and Cleary very close. The bottom line is Penrith have lost a cornerstone of their success
Yep.
For the future. Now, I've no doubt James Fisher Harris will do everything he can this year to win another comp, no doubt whatsoever. But it does create a gaping hole when he's almost as important as Cleary to this team. They're also losing Luai next year, and of course, in recent or last week, Sunia Taruva signed on with the Tigers as well.
Yep.
And I don't know that it was a huge amount more than what he could get at Panthers. I know he's very tight with Appy. Obviously, Luai going there as well. It's a drain of players. I don't know how they keep the success. It's unbelievable. The turnover of not just players, but crucial players in the team. But that's for next year.
Yep.
For this year, those guys are there. They're gonna, give their all. The team is going well. As I said, they're in third place, and they played quite a few games without Cleary. I've only been able to, the last few games, to watch the highlights. The player I want to single out, who I think has improved his game even more, is the fullback Dylan Edwards, who's doing things now that have elevated him above just a guy who makes a whole heap of meters, controls the defense, is very rock solid, makes few mistakes. He's now setting up tries. He's now scoring tries individually. This is not what we've seen too much of him, over the years. I think he's a better player than he's ever been. Whether he makes the Blues this year, that's up to Madge Maguire. Personally, I think it's his time for the Blues, and probably Pappy to come as a 14, who's been in outstanding form. Great to see Pappy back and firing for the Storm. But on this game, it's a Penrith win, but I don't think it's a big margin. I don't think so.
Okay.
So a lot for game one, but maybe we're not so much for the others, but so much to go over because we've missed a few weeks.
That's right. Well, they're both our clubs, so understandably so. On 6 p.m. on Friday, round. I'll start that again. We all know we're doing round 9. 6 p.m. 3rd of May. 4 Pine Stadium. There's too many numbers there. The Sea Eagles, who are in 4th position, take on the Canberra Raiders in 10th. Olakuatu is out for the Sea Eagles. Of course, I would imagine Cherry Evans would be too. That's playing out tonight. If that drops while we're doing this, I'll let you know, guys. But definitely at this stage, Cherry Evans is named. Luke Brooks a 5'8". For the Sea Eagles, other than that, it's business as usual. After the belting last week, Ricky, his 500th game, congratulations on that. Ricky has swung the axe somewhat. In saying that, he's got some big ins. Elliot Whitehead, Nick Kotrick have come in as well. They've come into the side. Zach Wolford is on the reserve bench. Some people keen to see him play. My way of thinking is that when I look at the Raiders, they have just one of the most because of injuries, their spine has just become one of the most inexperienced in the competition. And last week, trying to order the troops around and trying to get the defence happening, it just did not happen. I think regardless of what the Seagulls do this week, Seagulls in regards to Cherry Evans, I think the Seagulls win this. Seagulls seem like a very orderly ship at the moment. They seem to just be travelling along nicely. They're doing the little things right, which allows Tom Trbojevic just to come in and do what he needs to do. When I look at their forward pack, I just think that the Raiders forward pack has been strengthened somewhat, but last week they could not organise a you-know-what to you-know-where. That's a milkshake in the dairy, by the way. They just could not order their yeah, they had holes like Swiss cheese. They were just torn apart in every way, shape, or form. And in attack, they were a little bit iffy as well. There's some, it's going to be interesting to see who actually runs out for Raiders. I don't think they're going to be 1-17. I think they're going to play out what happens in training, but really coming to 4 Point Stadium, to the Seagulls' home ground, I've got the Seagulls winning regardless of who's their halfback this week, Griff.
Yeah, I agree. I just want to point out some couple Rugby League favourites. A new one emerged on the Rabbitohs bench. I saw it before. Liam LeBlanc.
Yep.
I don't think it comes under the salary cap. It's LeBlanc Czech.
It's
You're
in Europe. That's the white.
Yeah. Liam LeWhite. So a new favourite. Of course, the Eagles. They've got two of our all-time favourites on their extended bench, with Gordon Chan Kam Tong and the big Condon. That Condon on the bench doesn't seem to get used that often. I don't know if they're playing dangerously or not. But anyway, back to the game.
In saying that, the Seagulls are more in than out this year.
They have. I think they're a chance of top four, this team, and I think if they stay healthy, they actually are a team who can win the comp. I said before the season, I thought they could be in for a big year with Brooks. Brooks has been fantastic. Tommy Turbo, a fit Turbo, always means Manly are a chance of victory. They've got a ton of pace in that back line with Saab, Kohler. Brooks is quick off the mark. Their forwards have been quite strong. They are going to miss Hamoli this week. He is a wrecking ball, and he's a guy that when I go to game one of State of Origin in early June, I want to see that guy in a Blues 11 or 12 jersey. He's out this week. He's a massive loss, but I still think they win this game. I do think if DCE is out, I do think the Raiders will come into calculations. The problem for the Raiders is the loss of Jamal Fogarty, who was leading them around the park early in the season, leading them to victory. I sort of thought the Raiders were a chance of the spoon this year before the season started, and they proved me wrong in those early rounds. Some great performances, but it was Fogarty who was pulling the strings. He's out virtually for most of the season, I believe. Their halves, Strange and KO Sports there in the seven, neither of them are organizers. They're both runners, and that is not successful in the NRL. You can't have two runners in the 6 and 7, but they have no option due to the injury. To 2025, massive signing of Sanders. The Colonel is coming for the Raiders. And there'll be Ethan 6 and 7. It'll be an Ethan a ton next year, but that's not helping him now. Danny Levi, I'm still not convinced that he's the best option. I did see where he was running towards the line last week, and no one on him drops the ball. I don't understand why he's there, but Ricky's 500 games, NRL coach, I'm 0. For me, Wolford and Starling rotating has worked well for a few years, but anyway. Raiders a chance, but only if DC is out. I still think, anyway, Manly will continue their winning ways.
Yep. After that game, Griffo, at 8 o'clock at Suncorp Stadium, what must be said probably will be the game of the round. Broncos take on the Roosters. This will be huge. Jock Madden out, Ezra Mam in, Cobbo in. So that then makes a bit of a shift around here, there, and everywhere. Jesse Arthur's to the wing. Corey Oates is now in the reserves. During the week, Luke Keary announced his retirement. So congratulations on his career and his retirement. My first looking at Luke Keary was this young kid who really, without his input late throughout that season, especially in the second half and into the finals, South Sydney in 2014 wouldn't have been the premiers, and then he went on to win another 2 with the Roosters. So congratulations to him. He's put his hand up to retire. Jennings, of course, is out. They've got some key people coming in. Daniel Tupou, he's back in the side. I'm just trying to see Tupanua and Sandon Smith. They're on the reserves, with Victor Radley named on the reserves as well. Basically, when you look at the side, if you look at the Roosters side, they're probably near full strength without Radley, and if Radley comes in, that'd be it. This is game of the round. Ezra Mam back in with the way Reece Walsh is playing at the moment. Cobbo also back in. It just seems like this is going to be a cracking game. Pound for pound, player for player, spine for spine, forwards versus backs versus reserves. I'm struggling to know what to do here. I'm picking the Broncos. It's a bit more than the flip of the coin at times. I had a bit of a think to myself. I think the Roosters last week turned a bit of a corner. In saying that, I think the Broncos playing at home is one thing. I think the Broncos team, Ezra Mam and the way they've built this year is phenomenal. It seems like Adam Reynolds' whatever he had at the end was just cramped, which is good. On the flip side, Sam Walker's playing some fantastic football. Dom Young, of course, is back for them. He has been just on that wing with. He makes the opposition second guess. He also gives them some great yardage out from their own end, as does Tupou. He's done it for seemingly 100 years. Smith versus Walters, Collins versus Haas, Watson versus Carrigan, Griffo. I've got the Broncos and the nail biter. What have you got?
Jane, this is a game we saw in Las Vegas, one of the season openers. I can't remember which one was the actual first game, but this was a big clash. This is 2 teams on paper, which are on paper the best 2 teams in the NRL. I'm disappointed I won't get to see the game other than just a 4-minute highlight after the event. But both sides have X factor. Both sides have big, strong forwards. Both sides are pretty much at full strength. You mentioned Victor Radley. He's named, as 22. Obviously, it's only a matter of whether he's fit to play. If he is, he comes in. I really I tip Brisbane only because they're the home team. I'm leaning that way. I actually want the Roosters to win. I don't hate any teams, but if there's a team I don't like the most at the moment, it's probably the Broncos, and that's partly it's a matter of respect in many ways, because for a lot of people now, over the last few years, the most hated team in the competition is my team, the Panthers. Nobody hated the Panthers when they were shit, and it's that way. When you are successful, others don't really like you. But I have a great amount of respect for this team and what they are capable of. They still haven't, in this era, or for some years actually, won a competition. They should have last year, but didn't. It would not surprise me if this is the grand final in October. Obviously, there are a few other teams like the Panthers, the Storm, and the Sea Eagles. I think they're the only other teams who can make it. But this is the two best rosters. Looking at the highlights, we didn't have a grab, but I think it would have been Reece Walsh from last week. A few times there where he tore apart the Tigers. Walker in the opposition was outstanding, obviously, for the Roosters, setting up a number of tries, so they had the ball on a string. To be honest, both teams played against opposition that are not going to make the 8. As well as I've been impressed by the Dragons. They're not 8 contenders. These two teams head to head. What a game you'll see. It says on my it says 12 p.m. here, Friday the 3rd. I'm on European time, obviously. So this I'm assuming it's the 8 p.m. game. Is that right?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. So it's the game of the round, and enjoy what should be outstanding. The only thing, actually, one thing that would have been interesting if Spencer, he had a couple of 9-week suspension, he would have played this game. So that would have added a bit of to the spectacle, I think, in the build-up. But two great teams on paper, and I hope the Roosters win, but I think it's Broncos. That's what I've put for my tips.
I agree. On Saturday, 4th of May, the first game of the day, Super Saturday, 3 p.m, the Bulldogs in 8th place take on the West Tigers in 15th place. No real changes in either side. I suppose the key thing is Toby Sexton. He's on the reserve. There's been some talk out of training of people still watching him train. He's actually played a bit of he's been playing more of a pivotal role in certain things. So it'd be interesting to see what happens there. But I'm gonna name for you listeners. I'm just gonna. If you don't know the Dogs, you probably don't understand this in two ways. Bailey Hayward, Samuel Hughes, Curtis Morin, and Blake Taft. That has to be the smallest interchange bench ever named in the NRL. You've got, I reckon Hughes is probably the only guy that's over 100 kilos.
He's a big lad.
He is a big lad. He's about 110, I think, from memory. The others, if they might, I know probably Hayward and Taft, they're 80s, 90s. Morin maybe in there. That's a very small interchange bench, and yet again, from Cameron Ciraldo, his interchange selections have bewildered us the whole time. We've been talking at length about how his team tends to pick these small interchanges at bench. I don't know why that is. Not so for the Tigers. Their interchange bench is actually quite large. When I look at these two teams, I look at a team in the Bulldogs that really have troubled their opposition since Kikau has come back and really played a pivotal role on that edge. He has to be their number one player at the moment. Early ball to Kikau just equals meters left, right, and centre. Reed Marnie involved in an incident against the Knights, quite a strange one. I think he's actually playing a more pivotal role, especially in the kicking game. Matt Burton seems a lot more comfortable. Josh Adokar and Stephen Crichton again getting early ball. And to be fair, Bronson Sherry doing some great things where Kiraz is able to get
very
the ball.
good.
Yeah, get the ball as well. And it'll be interesting to see Connor Tracy at the back, whether that then now means Blake Taft, if he's going to come in the interchange bench, I think he should be number 14 playing a roving role, although if you're number 14 or 17, doesn't really matter. The West Tigers, they're a strange one for me. I've liked when the Tigers have played well. I think the Tigers, when they do the right things, when they hold the ball, are a very good football side, and they're steered by Lachlan Galvin. He is a young man with an exceptional future in this game. I hope he stays fit. I hope he a few weeks ago he had a kick, would have been against Parramatta, where he ran to the line and kicked for Olam to score, and you just went, that takes years for some people to learn, and you've learnt it now, to run the line and make this accurate kick while someone's trying to tackle you. He is a very good player. Justin Olam's been doing some really good things for them. Buller at fullback, I think they've now got the 1-6-7-9 that they can set their watch by. Their forward pack can be hit and miss. Not Bateman in any way, shape or form, but the rest of them, it really can sometimes depend on what the moon phase is, or whether Scorpio's in the cusp of Venus. I don't know. It just seems like they can do so much good one week and then the next week looks so disinterested. I think when they're unsure what their opposition's going to do, they just turn to water. I've got the Bulldogs for that reason. I just think the Bulldogs at the moment, their forward pack are just far tighter than what the West Tigers one are. Furthermore, they can offer far more. I actually am going to be looking forward to seeing Bilami Kikau really run on those edges. I actually think this game is ripe for him. The Dogs win, they cement their spot in the top 8. The Tigers will not want to lose distance, and Appy is the guy for that. I think Appy Coruscant, this game's made for him. He's been playing some very good football. In saying that, he has an injury cloud. He could not be playing this game. Either way, I've got the Dogs winning this one, Griff.
Yeah, I lean towards, I've tipped the Bulldogs. A really interesting game. Anything is possible here. Bulldogs are playing good football. They're playing to their own strengths. Kikau has come back to life. Last year, basically, he was out injured the whole year. He copped some criticism, but he was injured. They've got a very good backline in terms of potential for try scoring. Burton has found form again. It's a small pack. You mentioned the small bench, but there's only one big guy out there, and that's Kikau. So they've got to play a fast brand of football, because they come up against a bigger pack. On paper, the Tigers always look good in the forwards. They've got a big bench as well. They've got skill there, Galvin. They can win this game. There's no doubt about it. It's just the consistency is a bit of an issue for these guys. They're playing better than they did last year. I think they got a better squad. And it would not surprise me if they won this game. But I've got to lean towards the home team on form. No surprises if the Tigers get up. You mentioned Appy. He's playing. He's injured. That concerns me for the Blues because
Yes.
he's the form number 9. I don't want to see him basically beaten up, and I know they're playing him because he's the key for this success. He's the captain. He is the outstanding player in the team. Take him out. I don't know what they've got. They've got Jake Simpkin who can play hooker. They've also got, not named, but Talon De Silva is a hooker, but he's not named in the extended squad. So it's hard to imagine that Appy's not going to play this game, but he's playing busted, and it's not good for him. He really needs a rest. They need the 2 points. I'm sure he puts his hand up, says I'll play, but the guy is busted, and it's only round 9 that we're coming into. That's a concern for the Tigers long term, and for me, it's a concern about the Blues because we need him fit and firing if we're going to be Queens on. But in this game, Dogs.
Yep. On Saturday at 5:30, we have the Gold Coast Titans up against the Melbourne Storm. I suppose the key out for the Storm, Xavier Coates, injured. He is out. So their Tyron Wishart, he comes into the wing. You also have Fotoaka out for the Titans. Titans really strange.
Big loss.
Yeah, massive loss. But what's really strange with the Titans, when you look at their 1-17, they won last week, and there's a bit of shuffling that's gone on, and I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
On Palacia
Pereira bench.
on the reserves, I thought, well, there's a lot of talk with the Shoop Dog being brought up into the side. I would have just, I know that, look, I would have just gone 1-17 from last week. You beat the Warriors, like it's very hard to say. We won. I was in a winning team, and I've now been relegated to the reserves. I just don't understand what's going on there. But anyway, regardless of that, Bronson Garlick, he's on the interchange bench as well. I look at this side and this Storm side. I cannot think of anything that would make me think that the Titans have a chance in this game. It's at Seabus Super Stadium in the Gold Coast, so everyone will have a great Saturday night after the game. But as far as I'm concerned, the Storm win this well. I just think the Storm at the moment are just doing the little things right. They weren't perfect last week, which is when you look at the score against South Sydney, you think to yourself, what do you need to do? They did hand over a bit of ball. They didn't do the little things at times correctly, but for the majority of the times they dot the I's and cross the T's, which gives me the inkling that they're probably going to belt the Titans this week, Griff.
Yeah, obviously I'm tipping the Storm. I remember the corresponding game last year. We watched it from the pub in Lawson. And I had tipped the Titans that day in an upset, and they won. But the Storm weren't in the good form that they are at the moment. They didn't have the squad on paper that they have at the moment. They had players out. The Storm side is as good as they've been for a few years, the way they're playing. They've beaten big-name teams, starting in round 1 with the Panthers, and then beaten the Broncos. I think they beat the Roosters. They're not going to get beat up there this time. Gold Coast, I was happy for them last week that they got the victory, even though I didn't tip them. They deserved it. They've come back after probably the first 4 rounds where they were awful. They challenged a couple of teams without getting the victories. Now they beat the Warriors in Auckland, which is a big tick for them. Would have given them a lot of confidence. But you look on the team list, it's a better side the Storm have. Brimson back to form in the number 1 jersey. The experiment in the centers didn't work. then he's back to back now, which is his best spot for the team. Of course, Campbell's still out. Losing Mo Fotuaika, which you mentioned, I didn't realize that. He's massive because now there's no Tino and there's no Mo. Just up front, not as strong. Stimson is in the 8. He's really a second rower. But, I think they'll give a good account of themselves, but it's not going to be good enough. The Storm are too good, and I'm backing them to win.
Well, to round off Super Saturday at 7:35, we have the Cowboys taking on the Dolphins at Queensland Country Bank Stadium in Townsville. 2 home games in a row for the Cowboys. Jageski and Chester are out for the Cowboys. Kenny Bromwich out for the Dolphins with Felice Kafusi coming in into the starting lineup. Look, the Cowboys, just on the Cowboys. I thought the Cowboys last week turned a bit of a corner. I couldn't say that any of the Cowboys games up until last week were great or not great, were good or not good. Last week I thought in patches they actually played like a team who could give a lot of NRL teams a run for their money and who would be better than the other half. Interestingly enough, JT is on the interchange bench, number 17, with Granville, number 18. Jake Clifford taking his customary spot in number 19. That leaves the starting lineup without Tomalomo. Very interesting when you consider the role that he plays in the club, that he's going to basically be on the bench, whether they're looking for tired forwards or not. My problem with the Dolphins is that whilst the Cowboys seem to be like this team where Todd Payton's a guy with $5 left, and every time he's bet red, it's come up black, and when he's bet black, it's come up red, and he's sort of toing and froing, and early on where there was some wins, I couldn't say you could set your watch by this side, and they're starting to go on a downward slide. My other problem with the Dolphins is I just don't think they've got the skill, class, or personnel that if people like Holmes and Drinkwater and Dearden wanted to play at their best, Nanai, Cotter, I don't think that the Dolphins have the personnel to be able to match this team. I find this harder to pick than a broken nose, which is why I'm going the Cowboys. My problem, unlike the Roosters Broncos game, is they're going to give their best. I just don't know what side's going to turn up. Is the decent Cowboys side going to turn up? In which case, will the decent Dolphins side turn up? Cowboys are at home. I've got the Cowboys, Griffo. This could be a fairly bland game. I hope not, because both sides have some really good players with some attacking prowess, but they'll need to both be on their game. They'll need to both be playing their best. If they're both on their worst, this could be the bludger of the round. This could be the Carpool Rugby League Portaloo game of the week.
Yeah, look, it's a must-win for the Cowboys. They're almost at full strength. I noticed DeBloon is back. He's been out most of the season.
Yep.
He's on the interchange bench there. It's a different bench for the Cowboys because they don't have that utility type player. They're all 4 forwards there, but of course they've got Ruben Cotter who can take over at give Reece Robson a rest, dummy half. But it's a powerful team when you look at it, the Cowboys, and you think, why are they not playing quite so well? They have to win this game. This is an under-strength Dolphins team. There's no Hammer. There's no Herbie. There's no Flegler. And obviously Gilbert is out for the year. But if they're not going to beat the Dolphins this week, well, when will they beat them, really? Because this is an under-strength team with with no disrespect, but there's a number of no names in the team for the Dolphins. They've done well to be where they are on the ladder. And obviously, Wayne Bennett gets the best out of guys. But there's a class difference. You got Dearden, Drinkwater, Val Holmes in the back line. You got the big Fuiaki, Nanai, the Bloom comes off the bench. There's firepower, too much. Cowboys at home, they lose this game. You can almost, I think, well, maybe it's not going to be this year for the Cowboys.
That's the one. I'm with you. But we'll wait and see. Round 9 on the 5th of May, which would have been my grandmother's birthday. She would have been her. But it is also my mum and dad's wedding anniversary. So
how about that?
Wow. Yes, they got married the same day as my grandmother's birthday. The Knights in 13th place take on the Warriors in 12th spot at McDonald Jones Stadium in Newcastle. There are some. There is a little bit of shuffling around here. Kurt Capewell is in for the Warriors. That's a big one. Bunty Afoa also named on the interchange bench for them. We sort of put Pompey as their 18th man with the rest to follow. The Newcastle Knights, they are more or less set your watch by them at the moment, but it just depends on how they play. Look, this is a game where I've got the Warriors winning this. I just think that without their key player in Ponga at number 1, the team does lose significant. It loses significant strike power, and Gamble and Hastings just can't provide what Ponga can. Best being in the centres. He just does not get the ball enough when Ponga's not there, and that's another problem. When he gets the ball in his hands early, he can be very damaging. Dan Gagai, captain, doing some, he's playing some decent football at the moment. But when I look at this, I think the Warriors. Look, Webster would absolutely have the Warriors asking some serious questions about last week and why the result was the result. I don't think a team like the Warriors slip up twice in 2 weeks. I've got the Warriors winning. I think that their forward pack is just going to be a bit too strong at times for the Knights. But where I see it happening is I just don't see the Knights scoring many points. It's not that their defense will be poor. I just think the Warriors are going to win because the Knights aren't going to score a lot of points. If you want to get your hands on the ball like you want Bradman Best to, are we at the point where in a defense he plays centre, but in attack he plays a more roving fullback role? I would start to think that maybe if after this week he just camps on the 3-quarter line, we got to start finding ways for him to start getting his hands on the ball and more involved. But I've got the Warriors, Griff.
I agree. I talked about the game for the Cowboys being a must-win for them. This is the same for the Warriors. The Warriors, for all the goodwill and all the good talk about how they're going, they're actually got less than a 50% record of wins this season. They're well down the ladder on where they need to be.
Griffo, you know
they
what?
Have to win this game.
Griffo, when I just said the Knights are 13th and the Warriors are 12th, you don't realise that.
Yeah. Unlike a few other teams where down the ladder, but under pressure, coaches and the Warriors haven't had any of that talk. Yet they're not performing as well as they should have. It started in game 1 when they were all over the Sharks but lost the game. They didn't turn domination into enough points, and I think the second round was similar. I can't remember who they played. They got beat by the previously winless Titans last week. That was a game they should have won. You got to bank those 2 points, and if they lose this game, I can't see them making the 8. On the other hand, the Knights, I don't see them making the 8, win or lose this game. They're without their star for most of the season. You mentioned the problem scoring points, and I can't disagree with that at all. A very accurate statement. They got over the top of the Dolphins last week, but a severely weakened Dolphins team who nearly come back and got them at the end. Good for the Knights that they got the 2 points, give them a bit of confidence, but I don't think the roster is anywhere near their opponents. They have to win the Warriors. They're almost back at full strength. Metcalf would make a difference at 6, and Big Marata Nukore makes a difference, missing out of 11 or 12 there. But they get Capewell back. They look a good side on paper. They have to win, and I have tipped them to win the Warriors this week.
Yeah, yep. That's not surprising. Whilst the Parramatta Eels have the bye, what's going to finish off Super Sunday football? I don't know if they call it Super Sunday Ticket or something. I don't know. I forget what they call Sunday
Something
football
like
now. The Sharks.
The Sunday gimmick.
Yeah, the Sharks play the Dragons in what is a bit of a
local
derby at Shark Park, PointsBet Stadium in Sydney. One being first on the table, Sharks fans flying high, Dragons fans languishing in 11th. For the Sharks, it is business as usual, with Toby Rudolph being named in the side. Moses, well, I'll start that again. For the Dragons, they've got, I don't know whether what's 1 to 17 is actually going to be what runs out in the field. I'm not 100% sure. Looking at who's in and who's out, but I can tell you that Sully is out for them, and they've got a few people coming in. I'm not too sure. Rawalawa, he's in at number 5. He's on the wing. Luciano Leilua, he's also. Marshke's also named in an extended side. So it's going to be. I'm not 100% sure what side's going to take the field. In this game, one team at the moment is finding ways to win. The other side is finding ways to lose. I found with the Dragons, watching them over the past few weeks, that they really are struggling to generate any type of pressure on the opposition. They have players in their side that couldn't make a run meter for love nor money. They are struggling to come up with any type of creativity. Like, it's when you're up against one of the best sides in the competition, and your mindset is 4 hit-ups and a kick, I really think that you've got to start pulling something else out of the kit bag. In saying that, maybe it's the troops on the field. They don't have those. Look, the Sharks, they are flying at the moment, and they're doing some very good things. I know we talked about their draw. This is another example maybe of a home game against a club which we know won't feature top 8 football. Nico Hines has been absolutely phenomenal. Blake Brayley has been outstanding at times. Their back line has really been clicking over the last few weeks. It's been doing some. Last week it was outstanding too against the Raiders. Their forward pack is being led by Cameron McInnes, called the Chucky doll, I think, when we saw him.
Yes, he looked like it too.
But look, this time last year, my biggest criticism, and it always has been for the last few years of the Sharks, is that don't drop the ball on your 40-metre line and whinge that you're conceding points. They're not dropping the ball anymore. They are really becoming this disciplined side. Fitzgibbon's got them playing this disciplined type of football, which, whilst not pretty, when they get into attacking zones, all of a sudden Nico Hines comes out and it's just this flurry of players and play. I've got the Sharks winning this, and I've got a gut feeling they're going to win this pretty well.
Yeah, I tipped the Sharks. But in these local derbies over the years, there is a history of the expected team to win not being able to get the victory. The Sharks, along with the Storm and the form team of the competition, they've been very, very impressive in attack. They haven't played, I guess, too many games against what we would consider the top flight sides. That's not their fault. They will probably win this game, but the Dragons, I didn't think they were going to win 4 games for this season. They've already got 4. They were 4-3, and then of course they got hammered last week. But they're the team that just because they got hammered last week doesn't necessarily mean they're going to lose this week. Flanagan seems to be a coach who is similar to Ricky Stewart in that, this us against them mentality, and it sort of can bring out the best, not every week, but it can get a team up for a game. I read with some interest where he was commentating on, or made a comment on the Sharks, sort of said, yeah, I don't think they've won a comp since I left the joint, which is a good statement. He's having a big dig at his former club, but it's a true statement. They've not looked like winning a comp, even though they've made the semis most years. But this side, they do look more consistent, the Sharks, than in previous years. I am tipping them. I do expect they will win, but it won't surprise me if the Dragons can get over the top. They play a power game. They've got a big forward pack. They've got some big guys on the bench as well. Sully is a big loss for them. If Leilua is fit, I notice he's named in the extended bench, as you mentioned. If he is fit, I can't see him not playing in the game. So he's a weapon for them. The big whatever it was, $900,000 recruit. They don't want him warming a bench somewhere. Again, depends on whether he's fit or not. But they can trouble. There's no doubt they can trouble the Sharks. They beat Manly unexpectedly a few weeks ago. If they can produce that sort of game again, they can win. But on balance, I'm tipping the home team, the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks here.
Well, that's it. That rounds out the round. I was trying to look for another word, a synonym of round, but it didn't come to me. So that's round 9. That's round 9. That finishes round 9. Our bunch of tips for this week. Thank you for listening, Griffo. Thank you for being here from overseas. Keep safe travel still, and whoever your picks are this week, guys, I hope you do well. I have not been going well this year. It's been shocking, I think. But anyway, that's
you're coming back though, Shane. I noticed. I looked at the ladder.
Yes,
this morning. You're going upwards.
Mate, I'm a bit like South Sydney. You couldn't go. There's only one way. But anyway,
you're not that low. You're never that low. But
yeah.
Look, thank you for it's been great to talk to you. From another side of the world for the first time. and we'll try where possible.
This is the first international
on.
carpool rugby league.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
thank you,
This
Griffo.
time next week, I'll be somewhere in the UK.
Beautiful.
But we'll see how we go.
See how we go.
Yeah, thank you, listeners. Apologies that this year we haven't been able to be out every week, but we will do what we can, and certainly once we getting towards the Origin, we will endeavour.
Most definitely. Well, that's big. I reckon after this round, Griff, we're going to start thinking about players.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is
not far away.
Not far away at all.
First week in June, my tickets came through while I've been on the trip. I noticed the tickets came through. Looking forward to that. And,
take care, everyone, and thanks for listening. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.